Thank you for that beautiful singing and that courage to sing solos. Wow. Woo. Yes. So how do you measure a year in your life? Rick Fortner, how do you?
Next song.
Measure by the next song. Pastor Smith, how do you measure a year in your life?
Cups of coffee.
Cups of coffee. How do you measure a year in your life? According to Yoda is going to grace our wall here in a minute. The answer to that question is in the number of questions we are asked by our children. A grandmother in our congregation, Marilyn Iloff, showed me this cartoon or slide just a few days ago. Here's the caption. Once I became a parent, I finally understood the scene where Yoda gets so tired of answering Luke's questions, he just dies. Children and grandchildren, siblings and cousins, nieces and nephews, they do ask a lot of questions. What's the most difficult question you've ever been asked? Take a few seconds, find your own answers. Might have been, why is the sky so blue? It's a classic, requires some scientific knowledge to answer well. Or it might have been, where did I come from? Sister question to, how was I made? Have any of you ever asked your parents that question? A question which can lead to conversations about sex. Probably good to pause and share at this point that Shannon Boston has lots of guidance about how to answer all these questions in age-appropriate ways. Children, it turns out, ask a staggering, not 525,600, but 73 questions every day, according to a study in Great Britain. Half of which their parents struggle to answer, even after Googling for answers on the spot. Why do people die? That's a tough one. Not even ChatGPT will help with that one. Why questions are really tough, because we rarely really know why, even when we can explain the science behind birth and death or what makes the sky look so blue or whitish gray on a day like today. Some questions our children will ask us hurt a little more than others, like what does "we can't afford it" mean? Why do I have to go to school, and why can't I stay up as late as you are a little bit easier to answer. With questioning beginning as early as 6 o'clock in the morning and not stopping until bedtime, parenting can involve 14 hours straight of questioning, grandparenting too, of course. Some of us remember, others of us are in it. Mothers deal with an average of 413 questions each week, and this surprised me. Researchers said that fathers field even more questions than mothers. What is God? Is on the top 10 questions children ask list. And recently, my nephew in his 20s asked me, how will I know if it's a love that will last? Now, many of us have heard or read or been taught what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 18, verse 3. Truly, I tell you, unless you change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. What did he mean when he said that? Unless we change what? This morning, I want us to consider that Jesus, knowing the true nature of children, was suggesting that we pay less attention to thinking we know the answers and instead pay more attention to the quality of the questions we're asking. Because the questions we ask determine the answers we receive, the decisions we make, and the actions we take. All of this made me think of a mother I met many, many years ago, back in the years when I was a home birth midwife. She came to me late in her pregnancy. We'll call her Mary. late in her first pregnancy, thinking that she wanted to put her baby up for adoption. I listened as Mary told me her story and considered how I could best support her. When all her labs came back normal, I took her on as a client. At weekly visits, I took her blood pressure, measured her fundus, checked the position of the baby. I listened to her carefully as she questioned herself about becoming a mother and talked about her feelings, what it would feel like to give away her baby. I also reached out into the community for resources, and soon I had found a couple who wanted to adopt. And then I found a woman, a counselor, also a mother, who changed how I think about mothering forever. This mother, we'll call her Anne, worked for an adoption agency in Portland, Maine. And she was herself, as she called it, all 3 points on the adoption triangle. What Anne meant is that she had put her first baby up for adoption, she had adopted the child she was raising, and she had been adopted herself. It takes a minute to take it in. She was adopted, she had put her baby up for adoption, and she had adopted a daughter of her own. In that month of May, many, many years ago, I met with Mary, ready to give birth, and the couple, ready to raise a child, and Anne, ready to respond to any and every question. I can still feel the energy in that room while we talked. It was a sacred space, and I learned 2 things that day. First, that mothering includes all the questions and all the surprising answers and decisions represented in Mary's life and in Anne's life. And second, that there is nothing that can't be discussed when we have the spirit of a child and allow ourselves to ask our most raw and real questions. So my question for you this morning is, what real and raw question are you not asking yourself in your life right now? And what would help you ask it? I wondered this week what questions Norbert and Maya Chapek asked themselves and each other after World War I, when people all across Europe were despairing at man's inhumanity to man. Maybe their question was, how can we help people trust life or God again, even now? And this ritual of beauty and belonging to the human family was their answer. Albert Einstein said the most important question a person can ask is this universe a friendly place? What if the next question you ask matters more than any answers you've already found? What if? One of the reasons I started taking my spiritual life seriously as a younger woman was because I didn't want to grow bitter or alienated or resentful as I aged. What kind of person do I want to be? Is a powerful question. One question in my life right now is, how will I bring everything I have been taught and given and blessed with at All Souls out into the world? I imagine a certain question may be on your minds right now. What happened with Mary's baby? I attended the birth of a healthy girl, and Mary decided to keep her baby. The couple, though disappointed, accepted her decision with grace, I believe, at least in part, thanks to the quality of the questions and the conversation that took place, thanks to Anne. Truly, I tell you, unless you change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. No need to come up with 73 questions a day, but maybe just one quality question. A question like, what's holding me back? What do I need now? Where do the world's needs align with my passion and gifts? Because through all the seasons of our lives, a vibrant spiritual life is less about believing we have the right answers and more about being brave enough to ask quality questions which open our minds and hearts to a larger life and a larger love. So I invite you this week to not worry about finding answers, and instead focus on finding the question that opens you to more joy and more love. Maybe you'll meditate later on the question we started with. How do you measure a year? And after asking that question, you might just find yourself living in the kingdom of heaven right now, right here on earth. Because here at All Souls, we can and we do measure our lives in seasons of love. And I love you so very, very much. And I always will.
Beautiful.